So good evening. What are we doing? December 2021. Question 3. So I want us to go straight to the black squads. Yeah, you are to start on the black squads option valuation model. Because the other one I had given you how to go about it. Yeah. So we need to finalize some issues. So the one we want us to check should be the black squads. So we should check, is there in the handout? When you check through the handout, I have mentioned something on that. It is the second model of the stock of the option evaluation. Should be the second model on the option valuation. So I want us to go to, it should be on page 3. We can go through that page 3, the black and scrolls model. It's one of the model of the option valuation. It is one of the model for the option valuation. So they have given you some details that this model is used to derive the fair value of the call option. It is used when the share price at the end of the expiry period can take continuous values rather than 2 bars. So basically, it's normally one value. For the binomial, there were 2. It can either be this price or the other price. But for this one, they will simply give you 1. So they have given the assumptions under which the model normally operates on. I have given you those assumptions. Then there is now the model itself, whereby according to the black squads, the value of the call option is supposed to be expressed as follows. So I'll give you that formula and I explain what will be each of the variable contained. Then from there, we see how we can use a question from your past papers. But before then, you will also look at, according to the black squads, the value of the call option is affected by the following. So they normally test you on that. Factors that affect the value for the option. Like now, I've seen the market price of the security, exercise price, the risk-free rate, time remaining to expiry, also the standard deviation or volatility. The standard deviation is also known as the volatility. So you go through them, still also go through the limitations of the black squads. It is good to read them and see how they work. But for now, I want to go straight to the model and see how they can express that model to assist you to get the value for the call option. So in that model, value of the call option, value for the call option, it is supposed to be given by P. I will be explaining those variables, what they stand for, like that. Then you be required to minus. There is D, RT, and N. So I will explain what each one of them stands for. I will be able to explain what each one of them stands for. So that's now the summary for the model. Then apart from that, I also want to give you what is D1 and D2 if we explain all of them at once. So also D1 is supposed to be given by, solution, we are having P divided by E, then we add in brackets R. So I will explain what each one of them is in the model. Then we also divide by so that is now a D1. When you want to get D2, you simply get D1. Simply get D1. So I will be explaining what each one of them stands for. So we have D1 in the model, also have D2 in the model. So how did we come across those values? So we start right away from this point. So this one is the value for the call option. So this one is meant, so that particular VC will be the value for the call option. Then this particular P, so this particular P is the market price. P is the market price. P is the market price. So this one here, this E will be exercise price. So this E here will be the exercise price. Then for the denominator, we already know this one, exponential constant of 1. This one is the exponential constant of 1. Remember 2.71? 3, was it 3? Am I 3? Then R is the risk-free rate. R is the risk-free rate. Then T is the time remaining to maturity. That T will be the time remaining to maturity. So T is meant to be the time remaining to maturity. So now we go to D1, because these others, they will be explained after this one. So when it comes to D1, IN is there on your calculator. If you check on your calculator, there is that function of IN. It simply refers to the natural log. So you will be pressing that sign before you compute. So this particular P still remains what we have there. This P still remains what we have there. So this one is now the risk rate to remain what we have here. So the only issue is now, this one is the variance. So this one will be the variance. So this one will be the variance. Then that T there remain what we have. Then when it comes to the denominator, this one is the standard deviation. So this one is the standard deviation. Playing in a variance. So this one here is the standard deviation. The standard deviation. So to get the variance, we normally square the standard deviation. So questions may give you the variance or they give you the standard deviation. So if they give you the variance, here you just use it the way it is. But if they give you the standard deviation, you must square it to get what? The variance. Then here, if they have given you a variance, you get the square root of that figure for you to get the standard deviation. So that's now the issue between the two. This one is the variance, this one is the standard deviation. To get the variance, you simply square the standard deviation. If you are given the variance and you want to get the standard deviation, you simply get the square root. So the same apply here. D1 will be from this one. Then this, you can see the denominator is the same. So I just want us to use a practical question for you to understand what is contained there. So the question we can start off with, check the one for April 2022. We check the question for April 2022. There is a question number 3, part D. There is a question number 3, part D. We can go through April 2022, question number 3, part D. Question number 3D. Question 3D. want us to go through that question 3 part D. So that question 3 part D for April 2022, you are given information that the current market price per ordinary share of Kanga Limited is 58. That's now our P. Our P is 58. Then a call option exists on the company shares with an exercise price of 52. That's now our E. Exercise price is E. Then with the 6 month to maturity. So the time there is 6 months. So we normally convert it into a year. When they give you the month, you divide by 12 months, you convert it into the year. But if they give you days, you divide by the number of days in a year to convert it into a year. Then the option can only be exercised on maturity. That is the European option. So European option is an option which can only be exercised at the maturity period. Then risk-free rate of return is 6%. The risk-free rate of return is 6%. Then they have given you the variance of the rate of return on the shares. Variance for the rate of return on the shares is 15. But you have seen we require the variance there, but down here we require the standard deviation. So we shall be able to see how we can give them. So required using Black-Scholes option pricing model. They wanted you to estimate the value of a call option. So they have given you some information there of which it can be applicable, but I would also like now to have a key element on how you can use it from the same information. So they have already specified those variables. They have already specified those particular variables. So what we can do now, let us go through the steps that we normally go through when we are dealing with the Black-Scholes. So the first step will be for you to calculate D1. The first step in the Black-Scholes is meant for you to compute D1. We calculate D1. So to get our D1, we have said that it is the natural log, then P divided by E, then we add in brackets, there is R plus a half, the variance, then you multiply by T like that, then we divide by that particular portion. So it will now be, so our P has been given as how much? The current price is given as 58. Then exercise price is given as what? It is given as 52. We add risk-free rate, you are given which percentage? So 6% will be the same as 0.06. We add variance was also given. Variance is given as what percent? 15%. So 15% is the same as 0.1. So I'm not squaring it because it is already a variance. If it is the standard deviation, you square to get the what? The variance. So the question has given you a variance of 15%. So don't square it. This one means it's a variance. So it's already, so a half of it, I just divide this by 2. Get a half of it because it is a half the variance. So I just take that 0.15, I divide by 2. Then the time remaining, they gave you 6 months. You normally convert it into a year. So your T, remember to take 6 months divided by 12. That will be the same as 0.6. 6 divided by 12 the same as. So my T there is 0.5 like that. Then we divide by, this one is the standard deviation. But the question gave you what? The variance. So get the square root of that 15 plus 0.15 for you to get a standard deviation. Then multiplied by, so you remember this one is t, which is 0.5. So let us calculate and see what value are we going to come up with at that point. Let us compute and see what value are we going to come up with. So my advice for you, calculate this figure separately, write it. Also compute this separately, you write, and then finally you combine. But if you compute all of them once, it is normally, I don't know how they call it during the counting. You may even get 6, you write there 60 because of the exam time. So this one, let us see. When you press IM, then you open the bracket 8 divided by 15, then you close the bracket to get the answer. What is that figure? So you can have it into 4 decimal places to be 0. What? 0.9 what? 2. 92 like that. Then also calculate this other one. Also get this other one, then you give me the figure. So that other one should give you which value? 0.0675. Then also confirm the denominator. Also confirm the denominator. Also confirm the denominator. 0.279. So now get the final answer. That way it will be easier for you. Just go to that part, and then now you combine all of them at that level. Then you can still also round it off to 4 decimal places. So if you round it off to 4 decimal places, it will give us 0.6. When you round off to 4 decimal places, 5.2. So you are using this same figure. Yeah. So why should it give us 2 values? It is 5.2. Yeah. Okay. So after that, we compute D2. You also get D2. So D2, you simply take D1. Then we have that portion. So to calculate D2, you will come up with. So this information, you already have it. These 2 figures, you already have them. So D1, we have it as 0.645. Then this one, you also already have it. You see this denominator? Multiply this figure.
That figure is, yes, it's 5.1.
Well, you are getting which value?
5. You're going to be 5.1.
Round them off.
No. 5.1. A boy kuonyeshe 5.1 natoa wapi? Hata dunia hata ya. So anatoa 5.
So finally, I will require the two decimal places in the normal distribution table. So you see, when we get to normal distribution table, I will only require two decimal places. So for me, it will not make much sense. So I'm asking, so this one, you already have it. Then this one here, so which means it's already you have it. So you should not spend much time on this one. Simply take what you have calculated there, then you take this denominator. The 0.2739. So those two figures, you already have them. You already have them to shorten your computation in the time. So now give us which value? 0.3. So now, once you have calculated D1 and D2, there is now N D1 and N D2. So the next item that you need to come up with is now N D1 and N D2. So we start off with N D1. We start off with N D1. So that should now also be, so D1, it is 0.6, 0.64. I said 0.65. When I round it off to two decimal places, you see it up there. So this one will be 0.65. So because of the normal distribution table, that N is referring to the normal distribution table. So at the back of your first papers, there are two normal distribution tables. You want to check which one are we going to apply. There are two normal distribution tables. So all of them will give you the same answer. But we should understand which one are we going to use. Because in the exam, they will only provide one. They will only provide one. So we need to know which one are we going to apply. So you see the first one, they have indicated there as after the questions. You can see the one for areas under the one tail standard normal curve. Down here. I want to explain them. Just open, I want to explain them. You can see them. They are at the back of your past papers. In fact, they are the one that you have opened. Yes. No, just look at them. Look at them. Just have a view. So I've seen yours in the standard normal distribution and the normal curve. Okay, so we want to check the two of them. I want to check the two of them and see what is contained. So the first one, you can see the first one.
Yes.
The highest figure in that table is what? We'll just check through the entire table. You see the highest towards the end. It is 0 point. That's the first one. All of you have that kind of the table. So when it has that higher figure, when it has up to 0.9, that one is cumulative table. That one you indicate there, it is cumulative. It is cumulative. Then the other one, you see the highest is 0.5. That one is non-cumulative. So the one that goes up to 0.99 something, that one is cumulative. The one which goes up to 0.5, that one is non-cumulative. So examiner will give you only one, either the cumulative or non-cumulative. So I want us to start with the one for the non-cumulative, the one up to 0.5. So it will be a half. So when it is up to 0.5, what we normally do, we take now the 0.5. like that. That's now a half. When it is non-cumulative, the figures given in the table, they contain the other half. But we start from a half point of view. So this table, you normally have value like this. Then they will put something like that. Then they add there. So this one, when they have that item, it is non-cumulative. So it will have 0.5 at that point. Then another one will appear like this. But this one, what I will put, so let me just show you the second. So this one is cumulative. It will not have the one at in between. It will be right away somewhere there, so that they actually show. So this one is cumulative. When the dot there is beyond 0.5. But the one which is 0.5, then this is non-cumulative. So I'm starting the one which is non-cumulative. So when it is non-cumulative, you will start with 0.5 like that. Then now you read through that table. What is contained in 0.65? Check 0.6 on your left. You can see 0.6 on your left. Then check up 0.05. Check up 0.05. Then you connect the two.
242.
0 point. We are using the one which is non-cumulative. The one that went up to a maximum of 0.5. Yeah. So if you check in that table, 0.6 on your left. See your column ya kwenda tunaona 0.6.
Yes.
Then mwende huko juu. Hizo zinatembea huko juu. So you have seen the ones at the top.
Yes.
So check 0.05. Move downwards and connect to this figure. 0.2422.
Yes.
Yeah. So now I want you to add those two figures together. 0.7. So this is for the non-cumulative. But for the cumulative one, you read it straight away. Go to now to the other table. Get now in the other table, read the figure directly, 0.6, then you check up there, 0.05. It should give you which value? The one which was going up to 0.9 something. So you round it off to 4 decimal places so that we have the same information like this. So you are getting which value? 0.7422. So all of those two tables will give you the same figure. So it depends on what is given in the exam. They will only give you one. So now know how to interpret so that you know the one to add or the 0.5 or the one. So the easiest way, look at the totals. The one with the highest of 0.5 in a month is non-cumulative. The other one has the highest of 0.999 something. You can see that. Yeah, so you differentiate them in that order. Look at the table itself. Check the last column. The highest is what figure? You see, like now, the one of 3.9, then 0.06 is giving us 0.5000, like that. That one with a maximum of 0.5, it is non-cumulative. When it is non-cumulative, the figure you get from the table, you add it on 0.5. You add, so you have seen what I quoted from the table. Yes. I add it on the 0.5. But the one which has the maximum of 0.99, you can see at the end. Yes. When it is up to 0.99, you just get the figure directly from the table. You don't add it on any other item. And that is what you are getting for this second one. So I hope now we are able to know which is the cumulative and which is the non-cumulative. Yes. When it has a total of 0.99, that one, it is cumulative. You read the figure the way it is from the table. Yeah. But if you are given a table with a maximum of 0.550, now the figure you get from the table, you add it on the 0.5. They will give you the same values at that portion. So for now, the assignment is for you to know which table are you given in the exam. Is it the cumulative or non-cumulative? So if it is cumulative, you need to direct from the table, and the maximum is 0.999 something. So read it the way it is. But if you see it is up to 0.5, the figure you get from the table, add it on the 0.5. They will give you the same value. So I hope you can now see the difference between the two tables.
Yes.
Examiner will only give you one of the two. He will give you one of the two. So now you interpret which one is the table that he has been given. So if I'm given the one up to 0.5, you just check the totals. What is given, what is the highest? If it is 0.5, that means that this one will be then plus the figure you get from the table. You add it on the 0.5. But it has, if it has a total of 0.999, it means it is cumulative. The figure you get from the table, you use the way it is. So that's now what is the information on that level. Online, I hope it is clear to all of you at that point. Online, I hope it is clear among the two tables that you have. So that is ND1. I also want us to get ND2. I also want us to get now ND2. We should now come up with the ND2. So I say we route them off into two decimal places because of the normal distribution table. So this one we got 0.371. So we just round it off to 0.37. 0.37. So we are using both to confirm that either of them will give you the same. I start with this one, which is up to 0.5. So go to the table, check 0.3 on your left, then up there, check 0.07 and see what you have in the table. So 0.144. So when you add them, we give us 0.6443. Then I want you to go to the other table. Because all of them, I put them there so that you can now be able to know. So in the other table, go straight to 0.3, then up there, 007. So what figure is there? So in case it has 5 decimal places, round it off to 4. So it will be 0.6443. So they will give you the same. They will give you the same. So now, which table are you given in the exam and apply it the way we have explained? So that's now ND1 and ND2. So once you get those figures, now finally we go to the model and get the value for the call option. So value for the call option should be P ND1 like that, P minus E divided by ND2 like that. So finally, that is the value for the call option. So P, we know it was 50 what? So P was 58. And we have seen ND1 is 0.7. 0.742. Then we also subtract. Exercise price was 50 what? 52. We now also divide by exponential constant of 1. Remember, we said it is 2.718. So we are raising to the power of RT. You see that R was the risk-free rate, which was 0.1. And T, we said it is 0.5. Yeah. Then finally multiplied by ND2. So ND2 is what we have up there, which is 0.6443 like that. So get that part, then we come up with the final value. So we are getting which way? $10.53. Are we getting 10.53? So this was to compute the value for the call option. But sometimes they may also ask you to use the black underscores to get the value for the put option. So for the put option, after getting to this point, you apply the put call parity theory. Once you get, when you are computing the value for the put option, the steps are still the same. But once you get there, go to the put call parity theory. You go to the put call parity theory. If you still recall that theory, it was that P was supposed to be equal to C minus PA. Then you are adding that portion. So in case they ask you to get the value for the put option, first do the way we have done up to the value for the call option. Then now we use the put call parity. So remember, this P was the value for the put option. C was the value for the call option. This PA was the current market price. This particular PE was the exercise price, then the exponential constant of 1. So our C is the value for the call option, which is 10.53. You subtract this PA. You remember PA was the current market price, isn't it? But for our case, you can see our P is what? 58. So this one was 58, like that. Then this one is the exercise price, which is 51. Then you also multiply by exponential constant of 1, which is 2.718. Then there's the power of negative RT, that is 0.06. Also multiply 0.5, like that. That is just in case they also ask you to use the put, the black underscores to get the value for the put option. First, get the value for the call option, then proceed to the put call parity to get now the value for the put option in that manner. So it is still the same model, but now you extend it to also include the put call parity theory. So we can get the figure, then we have a short break for the prayers, then we come back for the sermon.
Hiyo ni yako. Sasa lazima unaona hiyo ni natural law. Fina natural law. Then bracket. 58. Unapata nini? Shift up ukitaka. That is why chance is there. That was the answer. See, hiyo ndio answer tulipata. Umeona kwa hiyo 10.53. Kwa boss. See. Yani see. Umeona hii. Unaona tena mama. Ambayo ni 0.5 ambayo ni time to maturity. So ilikuwa 6 months. That's the bash.
Itaitisha kwa pili yako. Nasaka ya awali ya waida.
Serious it was still new question.
No. Unaanza kushika.
Hizo graphs za haya tunajua watu wa senior ni watu wa
Naelewa wewe ukapo basi. Shida ni kutumia. Sasa nao amesha commitment account. I know commit. That's the great time. Wazimio nataka kwenda kulipa at least kwenda pesa kidogo kwa account. Ndio kitu kidogo nimetafuta. Wewe tunachitafuta. Na ujue sasa chance mambo ya hivi state kifeni tu kuipa hivi kwa sasa opposition direct na kudiscuss mnaelewa sisi hatusema zemu kadhaa wale mzungumzaji kaenda itaiji na watakuwa yakienda kwa zile kusema sikuje sasa alienda kusema huko zikuzi alikuwa anatembea na moyo wake. Na moyo wake. Sasa ndo so unakuta hapa na mwambie wale kwa
So they only require you to calculate the value for the call options. You have to get up to this point. But just in case they require you to get the value for the put option using the black scores. Get to that point, then you go to the call parity theorem to get the value for that. So still in that same sitting, someone had requested whether we do the question number. I don't know whether we did the question number 4. Question 4D, the same sitting. It was on restructuring. Someone asked about the content of that question number 4 part B. We did it in class. Just confirm. If not, we go through the question as we move. The one for April 2022. That question 4D. Did we do it in class? So that question is on restructuring. I just want to go briefly over it. Someone had asked me to go through the question. April 2022. Question number 4, part D. April 2022, question number 4, part D. That question is on restructuring and reorganization. So that question is on restructuring and reorganization. So if you can see the question reads that Viwanda Manufacturers Limited current earning per share is given as 5 shillings. So the company has an asset beta of 0.90. So asset beta is the beta factor of equity of unlevered firm. Then, and it adopts 40% dividend payout ratio as it is dividend policy. Risk-free rate of return was given as 5%, and the equity market risk premium is given as 10%. So the management of Viwanda Manufacturers Limited intends to undertake financial reconstruction, which will result in the debt to equity ratio changing from 0.15 to 0.3. So debt is considered to be risk-free. So required, show the impact of the financial reconstruction on the WSEC of the firm. So they simply want you to compute WSEC before restructuring and WSEC after restructuring. So there are just 2 concepts there. So we just simplify that question and see what is required for each bracket. So restructuring and reorganization. So let us check before. Let us check before. So before restructuring, the starting point is to calculate beta factor of equity for the levered firm. It is supposed to be given by beta factor of equity for the unlevered 1 plus D over E. Then you remember 1 minus the tax rate merit. So that's now the starting point where we get the beta factor of equity for the levered. So the question had given you beta factor of equity for the unlevered, the same as the asset beta. Asset beta is the beta factor of equity for the unlevered. They gave you which figure? Yeah, so 0.90. 0.90. Then 1 plus D over E. So D over E was given. You see, before required, it was changing from where to where? 0.15 to 0.3. So before it is 0.15. So debt to equity ratio, they have already calculated for you. It is 0.15 before. So I don't know whether you are given the tax rate. I think it was omitted, but in the real question, it is there as 30%. So before under required, after required, they gave you something, assume the tax rate was 30%, I think maybe when they were printing, it had affected it. So you come up with multiplied by 0.7. It is 1 minus 0.3. 1 minus 0.3 is the same as 0.7. This part of the tax rate. It was 30%, but I can't see it in this part. Maybe it was omitted in terms of printing. But for the exam, it was there. So get that beta factor of equity for the Libert farm. That's now B4. So you can have it into 2 decimal places the way you have it there. So it is which here? 0.99. So after that, calculate KEL. This is CAPM, risk-free rate. Then you add expected return for the market, expected return for the market. You minus the risk-free rate. Then beta factor of equity for the Libert farm. Then you agree with me, this one we say it is the risk premium. This part is the risk premium. So the question gave you the risk-free rate. The question had given us the risk-free rate. So what is there as the risk-free rate? So risk-free rate is given as 5. So risk premium was given. So they had already calculated for you this part. Expected return of the market minus the risk-free is the risk premium, whereby they gave you 10. Then now you remember our beta factor of equity for the Libert farm. It is 0.99. So that we get now our KEL. 14.9. 14.95.
14.9.
Which is a recurring.
No, you got 2.9.
That's 14.9 like that.
Yes.
Okay. So now after that, we get the WSEC. Now from there, we calculate the WSEC. So to get your WSEC, to compute the WSEC. So WSEC is the weight of equity, cost of equity for the Libert farm, weight of the debt. So KD must always be after the tax. So debt to equity ratio is given. Debt to equity ratio was given. So you need to see those proportions. You see debt to equity ratio. Tumepewa 0.1. 0.15 is 1:1. Sio ndio tumetumia hapo 0.15? Yes. Yeah, so that ratio is 0.15:1. I had shown you how to use your calculator to get those proportions. It is supposed to be 3:what? It should be. It is supposed to be 3:20. So all of you are able to get that?
Yeah.
So when you add them together, they add up to 23. That means that debt will be 3/23. Then equity will be 20/23. So now we can get our WSEC. So the weight for equity, it is 20/23. Then KEL is what we have as 14.9. Then we also add the weight for the debt. It is 3/23. So KD was given. Wamesema debt is risk-free. Are you able to see why they say debt is risk-free? So when it is risk-free, it means the cost of the debt is the same as the risk-free rate. When it is risk-free, the cost of the debt is also the same as the risk-free rate. So we put there, is it 5? Also multiplied by 0.7. That is 1 minus the tax rate. 1 minus 0.2 the same as 0.7. So get the value for that portion. Get the value for that portion. 13 points. Yeah, so that is now before reconstruction. That is now before reconstruction. So we should also calculate the same after reconstruction. We should also compute the same after the reconstruction. We now check the same after reconstruction. Which will also come up with the same after reconstruction. So after reconstruction, we now also check after. So the starting point again is that beta factor of equity for the levered farm, which must be given by the beta factor of equity for the unlevered 1 plus D over E. Then we have it there. So beta factor of equity for the unlevered is the asset beta, which was 0.9. Then 1 plus, so D over E was given. It was changing from 0.15 to 0.3. So this one will be 0.3, also multiplied by 0.7, which is 1 minus the tax rate. Then from there, also have it into 2 decimal places and see what value we come up with in that portion. $1.09. 1. So after that, go to KEL, which is meant to be the risk-free rate, then expected return of the market minus the risk-free rate, then beta factor of equity for the levered farm. So risk-free rate is 5. Then you are also given the risk premium, which was which value? 10. Then also 1.09. 15 points. Are getting 15.9. Yes. So also before you get the new SEC, debt to equity ratio has been given as 0.3:1. So can you also confirm that so you get the proportions from that level? Let us also get that proportion. Now 3:10. Yeah, so it is meant to be 3:10, which add up to that. So that means your debt should be 3/13. Equity should be 10/13. Then now you come up with WSEC, where you get weight of equity, cost of equity for the levered farm. The weight of the debt, KD, must always be after tax. So your weight for equity, get 10/13. And you multiply by 15.9. So risk-free rate was 5, also multiplied 0.7. So that you get now the WSC. So you compare the two before and after to explain that impact, whether restructuring has led to an increase or a decrease. WSCC, has it reduced or increased?
It has reduced.
Yeah, so there is a decrease in the WSCC. You must be able to explain that. There is a decrease in the WSC. There is a decrease in the WSC. So that examiner will always come up with this model. This model, remember, Hammer, always come up with that. Then this one is CAPM. It will always come up with that. Question 1, Roman letter 1 we did. Remember, adjusted the NPV. It had that and that. We did that question, the same city. Still question 1, part B. We did WSCC. It still had this and that. Then finally, this one. Then now the same question. This one is for which city? Yeah, it also has the same concept. So that examiner, most of their question, more than 50%, they have that concept. The WSCC, the cost, the CAPM, and that Hamad model. So make sure you get that part, because this is basically what they will be. Then they are so much interested in these items. Even when they go to the bankruptcy and the agency cost, we did some questions on that under the capital structure theories. It was still borrowing this question. So that's now the key issues for that question. So make sure you have this concept, how to apply this, then this. So these ones, they are 3 topics in one question. This one we did under the capital structure theories, the Hamad model. CAPM, we did it under the CAPM. Then this WSCC, we did it under the restructuring and reorganizations. They have combined all of them together. And they are the same in question 1, part A and part B. So you should now have the knowledge on how to deal with that question. So one more question on the black squares. I also want us to check now another question on the black squares. Another question on that sheet of the black squares. I want to do another question because of the issue. In case you get a negative one, what do you do? When the figure is negative, how do you treat it in the table? So this one, I want you to refer to the one for December 2014, question 5, part C. December 2014, there is a question number 5, part C. December 2014, there is question number 5, part C. December 2014, there is question number 5, part C. December 2014, question number 5, part C. December 2014, there is a question number 5, part C. Question 5, part C. So are you able to see a European call option? Trading at the securities exchange. Trading at the securities exchange has an exercise price of 40 shillings. It is maturity date is 6 months from now. The current stock price is given as 28. The current stock price is given as 28. Then the variance of the return of the asset is 0.5. Risk-free rate, they have put it there 16%, but it is 6%. Risk-free rate, make it to be 6%. What they have indicated there is 16. I think that's a typing error from the previous side. So required, using Black-Scholes, using the Black-Scholes option pricing model, compute the value for the call option. Compute the value for the call option. So my advice for you, you start with the D1, but they have already given you the formula. You see the formula. So if you have the formula the way they have presented it, you should minimize on the time part element, because now we know how to get D1. We know how to get D1 to save time on writing all those items. Now that the question has given you the formula, you can just write the formula. But for me now, I will go straight to how to get D1. So to calculate D1, we have said is IN in the brackets of, you remember P divided by E. So P, we know it is how much? So what they have given you, P is the current stock price is 28. So you write there 28 divided by E. E is the exercise price, which is the same as the strike price. They have given us how much? 40, like that. Then we add. Remember, R is the risk-free rate, which we have adjusted to 6%. So 6% is the same as 0.06. Then we add half the variance. The question gave you the variance as 0.5. So we simply take 0.5 divided by 2, because I have the variance like that. Then the time remaining to expire is 6 months. So 6 over 12 we see the same as what? 0.5. So T will be 0.5 like that. So I'm just using their formula. They have already given the formula there. Then you divide by the standard deviation multiplied by the square root of T. Multiply the square root of T. So you see the variance. The variance is 0.5. So to get the standard deviation, we simply get the square root of 0.5. Then we have said T is also 0.5, the 6 months. Yeah, so also have it like that. Then we should be able to come up with that figure. So that value is negative. That's why I've fixed the question, so that I show you when you get a negative, how do you go about them. That value is negative.
Você, 1, 2, 3.
So you are getting negative what? So we shall be able to get negative 0.4, 0.3, 4. So also get D2, where you get D1, and you come up to that. So it is negative 0.4034. So this denominator report on nothing. 0.5. So you minus 0.5. So finally should be negative 0.903. So it will finally be negative 0.903. Then now after that we get NP1. So I said you round them off to 2 decimal places because of the normal distribution tables. The first one will be so when it is negative, you want to use the one which was non-cumulative. So it will be 0.5. Then this time you subtract because this figure is negative. So now the value you get from the table, you subtract it from 0.5 because it is negative. You see there are 2 tables, so one does first to confirm both, whether they will give you the same details. One to confirm both, whether they will give you the same details. So when it was non-cumulative, the one that had a maximum of 0.55. So what figure is there in that table? 0.15 like that. This negative, yeah, so I'm saying just follow the normal procedure. Half was 0.5, but now because it is negative, we subtract it. The figure you get from the table, you subtract it from the 0.5. Now that it is negative, so just check 0.4. Then up there one after multiple 0, but because it will not shift. So it is just at that bar end. Because check up on that left side where there is 0.40. Where there is 0.4. Then up, you check the one which is 0, because there is no value after that. Is there 0 at the top?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that column of 00 up, then down there is 04. Then connect them and see whether that figure is coming to 0.155. So when you subtract, you are getting which figure? 0.446 like that. So confirm now in the table that had a total of 0.99, the one which is cumulative. When it is cumulative, you subtract it from 1. When it is cumulative, that's when it is negative. We subtract it from 1. First, give me the figure from the table, then you subtract it from 1. You'll get exactly what we have there. 0.6555. 0.65. Round off to 4 decimal places.
Yes. 0.6554.
Like that. Yes. Yeah. So I said if they have given you 5 decimal places, round them off to 4 so that they are able to match with the other one. So if it is negative for the cumulative, you subtract it from 1. Non-cumulative, you subtract it from 0.5. They will still give you the same values. They will still give you the same values. So it is still 0.3. So that's now just in case the question gives you a negative. When you compute and you get this one a negative, it means the figure from the table you'll be subtracting. If it is non-cumulative, you subtract it from 0.5. If it is cumulative, you subtract it from 1. It will give you the same details. Yeah. But when it was positive, remember when it was positive? This one I added it on 0.5.
Yeah.
The other one, it was just direct from the table. So you should be able to have those 2 tables in that manner. So I'm only doing that question because you may get a negative here. You see, if you calculate, you get a negative.
Yeah.
If you are using the non-cumulative table, the figure you get from the table subtracted from 0.5. If you are using the cumulative one, the figure you get from the table subtract from 1. Because these figures are negative. Here in negative, they are negative. So let us get now ND2. We also compute ND2. So you round it off, we say it to 2 decimal places. Also be negative 9.0, negative 0.90. So I'm confirming using both. The first one will be 0.5. So you subtract which here?
You want to take my
0.31. So it gets the value for that. So it is giving us 0.184. Then when you are using the other table, remember to subtract it from 1. If you are using the other table, that figure is subtracted from 1. Zero point 81 5 9. So I hope it is the same figure.
yes.
It's the same figure, which is 0.1841. Then now, after that, you get the value of the call option. Remember, it is P and D1. So remember that.
Yes.
So P, it is 28. So N D1, tumepata 0.3446. So remember that model.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you subtract. Remember the model is the black squads. Remember the model is that value for the call option. It is simply B and D1. Then you subtract E, divide by and B2 like that. That's why I'm now having it directly the way it is. So exercise price was, so you take 40, then you also divide by, so this one is 2.7183, isn't it? Then risk-free rate was 0.06. And T was 0.5, isn't it? Like that. Then now you multiply by N D2. Our N D2 is 0.184. So get now the value for the call option on the basis of that. So that's not the treatment if we get a negative figure. If D1 is negative, D2 is negative, that is not the treatment. When it was positive, we have seen the other question. So we treat them that level. We are getting 2.50. Yeah, so that is now the value for the call option. That now should give you the value for the call option. So there is something also on the real options. We had quoted some of the real options: abandonment, replacement, and the rest. So there is a one question I want us to use on that. So also refer to the question so that I just explain when it comes to, just in case they give you that kind of a question. So this one should be May 2016. May 2016. May 2016, question 1, part B. May 2016, question 1, part B. May 2016, question number 1, part B. Question number 1, part B. Question 1, part B. So are you able to see May 2016, question 1, part B? But before May 2016, the next sitting, you see, after that question 1, part B, then check up there, there's another question 5, part D, the one for the next sitting. It's just still on the same page. So now your question 5, part D, highlight 2 shortcomings of the black scores. Those are the limitations I've quoted for you. Just that question 1. Before question 1, kuna question 5 ya the next sitting, isn't it? Yeah, so your sitting ingine ulikuwa hapo na question 5 part D. Iliuliza shortcomings of the black scores. So that also requires you to read those limitations. You can see the limitation I've given in that handout. Also go through them. Then I've also said instead of limitation, they may ask you factors that affect the value for the option. I've also given you 5 of them in that handout. You see up there. So just go through them, outline them. They don't require explanation. You just outline them in that manner. So the theory part, they can ask you to come up with the factors affecting the value for the option. There are 5 of them. I have listed them in the handout. Now the limitation here, they wanted 2, but in the handout I've given you 4 of them. So go through them for the theory part. So my concern is the question part B for May 2016, where they have said that Planet Limited is considering undertaking a 20-year project, which requires an initial investment of 250 million, in the real estate partnership, and whose present value of the expected cash flow is given as 254 million. So Planet Limited has the option to abandon the project anytime in the next 5 years. So the variance of the present value is given as 0.09, and the 5-year risk-free rate is given as 7%. So required net present value of the project, including the option to do what? To abandon the project. Then finally comment on the results. So there are several real options that we noted sometimes in this class. There was abandonment, there was replacement, expansion, reinvestment, and the rest. But when it comes to abandonment, abandonment is the value of the put option. So when they ask you option to abandon, it means they want you to get the value for the put option. So abandonment is the value for the put option. The others are the value for the call option. Expand and the rest, they are value for the call option. And then when you continue in that question on the next page, they gave you a hint or the note. In that note, they have given you the Black's call option pricing model. They have also given the put call parity relationship. So option to abandon is the value of the put option. Option to abandon is the value for the put option. That's why they have given you both the black and the scores. You use it to get the value for the call option. Then now to get the value for the put option, you remember the first question I did? Yeah. I now include in the put call parity theory. So they are testing you both, the black scores and the put call parity. So black scores will give you the value for the call option. Then that put call parity, now you use it to get the value for the put option. Then also those variables that they have given you, we also need to define those variables that they have given you. When we are in the real options, when we are in the real options, so P is normally present value for the cash inflows. So under the real option, P is the same as present value for the cash inflows. Then E is the same as present value for the cash outflows. So those are now the variables that we shall be meeting under there. Then you also remember net present value. It is the same as present value for the cash inflows. We minus present value for the cash outflows. So NPV is supposed to be given by present value for the cash inflows. We minus present value. So they have asked you that from the one they were asking net present value of the project, including what? Option to abandon. So first get the NPV, because the question gave you present value for the cash inflows. Are you able to see whose present value of the expected cash flows is how much? Yeah, so 254 is given. Then present value for the cash outflow is the initial investment, which was how much? 250. So get now that NPV. So NPV there must just be how much? There 4 million, like that. So when now we go to abandonment part, we now get the value for the put option. So it was NPV including the value of to abandon the project. So when it now comes to the side of abandoning, your P will be present value for the cash inflows, which is 254 million. When it comes now to the area of the option, P is going to be our present value for the cash inflows. Then, if there is a slight difference there for this question, this one is meant to be the abandonment value if it is given. But if it is not given, you use this. But for this one, they gave you abandonment value. Are you able to see the option has option to abandon the project at any time in the next 5 years at how much? Yeah, so this one you will use 150 million. But if it is not given, you will use the 250. You will be able to apply 250. So once you have done that, now get D1. So D1 is the natural log. Then B, which is 254 million. We just have it as 254. We divide by E, which is 115. Then we add in brackets. So we now R is the risk-free rate, which is given as 7%. So 7% is the same as 0.07. Then we add half the variance. The variance was already given as 0.09. 0.09. So you just divide by 2. Then T, the time remaining. The question gave you, they abandoned it after how many years? So T is given as 5 years, like that. Then you also divide by, that will be 0.09, but it is a variance, get the square root, and also come up with So what should be our D1? Should be 1 point what? You are getting 1.64 like that. Napata hiyo figure. Then kama tunapata that one, you also get D2, which is D1. So which means you simply take 1.64. Then this denominator gave you here 0.6. 0.608.
Yeah.
Because finally I will only require 2 decimal places. So it will give us 0.670. So finally it will be 1 point. Hii ingine ni ngapi?
0.670.
0.670. Sasa mkisubtract mtapata nini?
0.976.
0.9
796.
716. But finally, remember we said we only require it in 2 decimal. It's because of the normal distribution. So because it is positive, so now I want you now to specialize. You just pick one table. Just need to near the 2 of them. So you know how to use each one of them. So assume they have given the one for 0.5. So D1 and D1 simply be n. So this one you round it off to the 1.64. So I'm picking the one I earned on the 0.5. So what is there in the table? The one which is up to a maximum of 0.28. 2389. So that it will be 0.7389. Nikiweka hapo 0.5, obvious we are using the one
0.549.
gani hiyo?
Yeah, 0.23.
Ni gani iko kwa chako?
0.44.
Because I've rounded it off to 1.64. So you got a
0.495.
check on your left 1.6.
Yes.
Then up, check 0.4.
Yes.
Then connect them. Should be which one?
0.449.
0.4. So that now gives us which figure? 0.9.
Yes.
Then we go to D2. So the one for D2, we round it off to 0.9. No, this one, yeah, 0.97. So it is still 0.5. Then we add which figure?
3340.
0.33. So now it will give us 0.8340. Yeah, 0.8340. So from there you get the value for the call option first. So our value for the call option So you remember P1, so the P was 5, so 254, isn't it? So multiplied by ND1, which is 0.9495. Yes. Then we subtract. So remember our exercise price. It was 150. So 150 also divide by this 2.7. 183. So risk free rate, you remember it was 0.07. 0.06. It was 7%. Also multiplied by 5. And after that, 0.8340. That's the value for the call option before we get the value for the put option. That is now the value for the call option before we get the value for the put option. So tumepata which figure? Exactly 153. Are we getting 153? And then finally you go to value for the put option. You use the put call parity. The question has given you that put call parity, where P is equal to C minus PF. Then you come out with that. So C is your 153 that you have just calculated. Then PF, you remember 254. PA is the same as our P in the put call parity theorem. So remember our put call parity theorem. This C is the value for the call option. P is the value for the put option. And this is the current market price, our PE, which is our P is 254. Now even about the exercise price, which is the same as our 150. Yeah. So now you minus 2, then you add 150 multiplied by this 2.7183. That's the power of negative 0.07 multiplied by 5. So that now will give you the value. Option to abandon is the same as the value for the put option. So option to abandon, you get the value for the put option. After you have calculated the value for the call option, now you use the put call parity theorem to get now the value for the put option. Get the value for the put option. This is 4.7.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we can finish because the question wanted you to get NPV and option to abandon. Remember the requirement of the question? That Roman letter 1. So that means that you are to get the NPV plus the abandonment value. So the answer was meant to be equal to the NPV. Then you add abandonment value. Abandonment value. So as you know, NPV was 4 million. Remember that when we started? Then abandonment value is the value for the put option, which we have gotten 4.7 million. So the entire value should be 8.7 million. So now the entire value. So you will advise them in the Roman letter 2 to abandon. Because NPV with the abandonment is higher than NPV without abandonment. So let us advise now in the Roman letter. Because now our NPV with the abandonment, it is 8.7. When there was no abandonment, NPV was simply 4 million. So now the advice in the Roman letter 2 is that abandon the project. Abandon the project since NPV with the abandonment, since the NPV with the abandonment is higher than NPV without abandonment. NPV with the abandonment is higher than NPV without the abandonment. So that is now on the real options. Get to know P is the same as the present value for the cash inflow. E is the same as the present value for the cash outflow. So that's now the end of that question. So tunapata limit to pick a story. I do something on the exchange rate, then to a story to Malaysia. I'm talking kupatana na mimi tena. Tomorrow I have something else in my classes section 3. As a patana 11, not 11, but 9 on Saturday. We finish it. I cannot satisfy everyone. Mimi kesho I'm not there. Then some of you will be there. So how do we now strike a deal? The only deal is to abandon everything on my side. Yeah, because now there is nowhere I can make a deal. Tomorrow I have section 3. I had promised them. So says nikawachilia. Then the only time sasa nitapatana na nyinyi something brief. We can't talk now because I must do something small before I conclude. So those will be available on Saturday at 9 in the morning. Tunaweza ongea, tumalize something brief, then we conclude. So mnafanya exam from Tuesday. From Monday, it's still time. Even 1 hour is enough to save a human being. I won't do anything complicated. Then tomorrow we will pay time for just something brief. Sitachukua muda mrefu. You can even log in online. Even just 1 hour or 1.5 hours. You know, sometimes, hata mimi niliambiwa in when I was doing my project, some